Welcome to the Star Podcast.
Whoa. Star Podcast.
Welcome to the Star Podcast, hosted by Nat. Each week, we share tips and stories from safety, trucking, and recruitment, and everything in between. Listen now.
Welcome back to another episode. Today we're honored to welcome Arthur Lih to the podcast, the founder and inventor of LifeVac, a device that has helped save thousands of lives around the world. Arthur turned a tragic story about a 7-year-old boy into his mission to be able to save his own 7-year-old daughter. And that mission turned into an easy-to-use device that could be accessible in homes, schools, and public spaces. In this episode, Arthur shares the story behind the invention, the challenges of bringing a life-saving product to market, and the impact LifeVac has had worldwide. From concept to global distribution, his story is one of persistence, innovation, and a deep commitment to protecting families and communities. It's a really powerful conversation about purpose-driven entrepreneurship and making a difference when it matters most. Arthur's also an author, podcast host, and just a really interesting person to talk to, so please listen now. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to sit down and chat about your career and about LifeVac, and you can share a little bit about that. So I just hope to get started, you could share a little bit about yourself and some career highlights, how you got to where you are today.
Well, when I was 17, I started driving a truck at JFK Airport for a trucking company. And throughout the next 18 years, I kind of moved my way up, and I did night operations, I did customer service, I did sales. And then myself and my partner started our own company. And when I was 47, I was probably 46, we sold it, and I was ready to retire. I was very blessed. My little girl was 7, so I said, man, I got plenty of time now. Well, life is funny. So I heard of a 7-year-old that had choked to death, and my beautiful little girl was 7. When I was 20, I was in a terrible car accident. My 2 best friends died right in front of me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I really had a kind of a flashback to that 20 years of constant pain. So I said, okay, I have to be able to save her. That's my goal. And I researched, found out, 5,000 people a year choke to death, 1 child every 5 days. And, that the policies and procedures just don't always work. Nothing against the rescuer, nothing against anything. You don't have air, you don't hit the right spot. Just doesn't work. I actually, after the research, I went to Home Depot and found a sink plunger. And my brain said plumbers unclog pipes. Well, it turned out it was super simple. You just push it and pull it. I made the air vent out the side. And to date, we have saved almost 5,500 lives and 3,300 plus children. So
That's amazing.
It's my life in a nutshell.
That's so amazing. I was actually listening to a podcast where you shared the story about, I think you said you had went to visit a friend in the hospital, and he told you about the story about the little 7-year-old, which I just thought was so incredibly sad. And I didn't realize that choking was such an issue with so many deaths. Like, I just had no idea.
Yeah, that was it was funny because, not ha-ha funny, but ironic that I didn't either. And when I first saw that night that I went home, because I said, there's got to be something I could buy,
Right.
Right. And then I can go back to my life. I'm retired. I'm going to have a great life. But everything had a tube, and you would have to stick the tube in the body. And I'm like, I'd be freaking out. There's no way I'm putting a tube in my girl calmly in that position. But what terrified me was, now I know, right? I know 2 really scary things. That a child dies every 5 days, and protocol doesn't always work, right? Prior to that, I was fat, dumb, and happy. I didn't know. I took the course. I figured she choked, I'll back blows, and I took it. I'm certified. I'm good. So that was a scary time because I was now aware that what I could do may not work, and that it's the 4th leading cause of accidental death. What? Who knew that? So that was a real light bulb, and it certainly was a driving force. I got to figure this out.
Yes, absolutely. And that was one of my questions was why is choking such an overlooked cause of preventable death, which I guess you kind of touched on. If you know CPR and you know the Heimlich and that kind of thing, you think you're okay. You don't, I guess maybe it's just not something that you think about could go further. Do you think that's why?
And it's a great question because here's why. One, no one knows that many people choke to death, right?
Right.
Number two, I took the course. I watched Mrs. Doubtfire just Heimlich the person, and it's so common that it's not on the evening news, right? The news is dramatic events, right? Even if they are common, it happens 16 times a day. It doesn't make the news because it happens all the time. And my head is exploding saying, oh my God, I didn't know any of these things. So it was really it's commonality is what it's downfall, right? Happens all the time. And in the beginning, I read it, tragic accident, like it was, this amazing, unbelievable event until I researched and found out, no, it's not. That was one of 16 that day. Every year, about 7 kids choke to death in school. Who knows that? No one.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, it won't happen to me. It might be one of those as well.
Well, I mean, it's almost below that in the sense that didn't even think about it. And over the decade of doing this, who sits around and talks about choking? No one, They may say my knee is cricky, I got to go to the doctor. But when I bring it up, if there were 10 people sitting here, 7 of them would have a story. I was at a restaurant, I was out to dinner once, my wife, my table, I was at a party, and 2 of them will probably know of a death. The guy down the block, a woman at a restaurant, I was at a party, kid at my kid's school. That's when you see that commonality exists, just we never talk about it,
Yes.
You don't go, hey, Bill, how's the choking going? So being the choking guy, I have brought it up, and that's my man in the street campaign of saying, okay, I understand how frequent it really is.
You talked a bit about your background. You're now creating like a medical device company. So did you have skills that kind of transferred over, or how did you kind of build that? How do you go to creating that?
Yeah, that's a good one. And it was really, God made me do it. So after I was I made my little glued together plunger that could save my daughter. I kind of for a moment said, all right, I'm good. Hey, I can go back to my life. I could save her. But then I started to say, how am I going to read about your child choking to death and know I had this cool thing that could have saved her? How am I going to live with myself? The devil's saying, it's not your problem. You worked your butt off, enjoy life. And we used to camp, me and my daughter, every year before she went back to school. We'd take my boat out to the island. I'd make the tent. I'd put the teddy bears. We'd have a fire and talk. And I couldn't sleep, and I put her to bed. And I walked out and looked at the sky, and it was a beautiful night. And I was out in the bay. It was dark. And I said, God, give me the strength. And as I said the word strength, a shooting star went right across the sky. I realized that the answer to your question is the only thing that helped me is building a business from nothing. Right? When I started my freight business, there were 4 people in a closet. One of those guys is still with me today. So I knew how to do that. I knew absolutely nothing about a medical product, the FDA, manufacturing, protocol, legal liability. So, but since that I had that star, I didn't care. I'll figure it out. And we got clobbered, man. I got so clobbered the first 3 years, it's ridiculous. People making fun of it, telling me I'm going to get sued. It's not protocol, blah, 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 blah. But luckily, I didn't know any of those things. So I was like, really?
What did your daughter say once you created this device and you told her, I don't know if you told her the story behind it or if she knows a lot about the device. Like, what has she commented on it?
Picture, because I have a picture of her in my garage in a tutu with one of my glued together things. The first time I got to work, she was sitting right there. And I had the mask at the time. I just took a Coke bottle and shaped it because I didn't want to spend money on it because I wasn't sure if it would work. And she says, Dad, put a little more tape so you get a good seal. Boom. We popped out the obstruction. We popped out a olive pit. She was right there. She was with me the whole time.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Oh, man. Well, we're buddies. Like, we built a boat together. We built a paddleboard together. So I was always dragging her into the shop.
Well, I'm sure she's very proud of you. So I guess you kind of touched on the obstacles that you faced, like developing LifeVac, but did you have any big obstacles bringing it to market?
Yeah, millions of them. It's impossible. Here's the biggest problem. And luckily, once again, I wasn't aware of these giant, humongous problems, although this one I kind of knew. You can't test it. I can't choke you and try it.
Right.
I backed out and said, okay, I got to do everything I can. So we did mannequin testing, we did force testing, we did cadaver testing. But, and I wouldn't say this 7 years ago, we took a leap of faith and said, I think it's going to work. And I put it out there. And then we meticulously registered and monitored all our saves. So that's why the whole saves has 5,000 pictures in it. But that's why, you had to have something mentally wrong with you to do this because there was no way to prove it would work. And I think it's never been done because I think I've seen patents early on and I see where they stopped. They said, we can't test it. How do we show it work? And if it wasn't for the shooting star, maybe I wouldn't have been that crazy. But I said, I did everything possible. I think it's going to work. And the God wink on that, my daughter's name is Jackie. After 3 years, we got our first save. The woman who used it in the UK in an elder care home, her name is Jackie.
Oh, that's such a good story.
Yeah, it's a
crazy.
God said, I didn't let you down. I didn't push you down the wrong path. He just using me. I was like, thanks. I appreciate the help.
Do you have a particular save story that stays with you?
There are a couple, but the one I really rely on that really comes back to me quite often, the second little child we saved was a little boy named Killian just before his first birthday. His father worked nights, and the mother had him up like 2 a.m. because the father was coming home so he could see the little guy before he goes to bed. She had him watching his, Tubbies video, and he reached over and grabbed some carrots and shoved them in his mouth, started choking. The grandfather had given him a LifeVac, and she said, he's crazy, and threw it in the closet. Well, I designed it so that you didn't know what it was. How do you just panicked? Oh, great. Obviously, we'd like you to train and pay attention. She didn't know anything about it. She took it out, saved his life. I went there in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, and I got to hold the guy. I got to hold little Killian. And I looked over, and his parents and his grandparents were there, and it was perfectly quiet, and there was never a more powerful moment of gratitude, right? Gratitude's an odd feeling, but it was like immense, and we were all just so grateful that little dude was there. And to me, I was able to look at them and know they don't have to feel what I felt.
Right.
So, yeah, that's one of my most powerful saves. I had little JD jump on me and hug me and say, thank you for saving my life.
Oh.
Yeah, he's so cute. And he's a maniac like me. I love that kid.
Oh, that's so amazing. Well, it's crazy impressive what you've done. Like, thank you so much for creating this and, just having the faith to keep going with it. I think that's amazing. I mean, the story of creating this safety device is amazing enough, but just your story of perseverance and faith is amazing. So thank you so much for coming on here and sharing this. I'm located, and a lot of the listeners are in Canada, which I did check, and you do have a LifeVac Canada distribution or whatever, but where should people go if they want to find out more?
Well, in Canada, go to lifevac.net in Canada. US is lifevac.net. My friend, the guys in Canada were from my shipping days. 'Cause
Okay, cool.
first started and had to glue together sink plunger, it was only good guys that were willing to try and do something great. Canada and UK, both friends for 40 years from shipping. So,
Amazing.
yeah, I hope your audience goes there and in the uslifevac.net. And,
Excellent.
I appreciate this. I think the people who are safety conscious, I was talking to you earlier, restaurants, malls, schools, industrial compounds, the mining company that saved the life in their facility. It's something that it's inexpensive. It lasts forever. It's very common. You use it, we give you a free one. I tried to do everything possible to make it economical. It doesn't expire because I don't believe in that. So hopefully me and you saved a life today. I think we will.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say it'd be so important to have in schools and to have at daycares, but also absolutely in the mines, if you're underground, having it accessible, or yeah, there's construction areas and just different places. Absolutely, 100%. So excellent. I'll put the link to lifevac.net in the show notes. What if anyone wants to find more about you? Are you on LinkedIn or do they go to the website?
Yeah, and do you know I have a book?
I did.
Sorry, Canada's a lie.
Yes.
But I would love for you to have it. That's also on our website. So if you wanted to know how I tick, you could always get that. But it's just short stories of life lessons. That's all.
Amazing.
You would like
I'm gonna go buy it for sure. It sounds very interesting. Excellent. Well, I'll put the link to your book as well for anyone who's interested, because you're definitely a very interesting person, and I think we can all learn a lot from you. So that's great. Excellent.
You save a life in more than one way, so I'm with you, and I appreciate this a lot. I'm telling you, it'll save a life. I promise. Someone's going to know it, someone's going to see it, and it's going to save a life. So you did good today.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again. I really appreciate this, and it was excellent getting to know you a little bit.
You too. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Wow. Star Podcast.